I really got the feeling today that everything is going my way. Now this is what I'm talking about. Every time I see your smile, it makes me shout. Let's go! Let's go! Nothing's gonna stop us today. Get on the bus or get out the way. We're cruising with the radio on. So turn it up to 10. Here comes our favorite song. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
Yes, let's go. It's another Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Happy Friday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn, good whatever you find yourself, wherever you find yourself. Welcome to another episode of the Demystify Tech show on my channel. So, thank you so much, all of you who reached out to find out if everything was okay with us, because last week we had a little emergency. All is sorted, so we couldn't really get to where we're going. So, I'm going to have a technically repeat of that. We're going to go over what we started last week, and then we're going to continue with our schedule for last week, which is dealing with dialogues in the Bot Composer framework. So, when we come back, I will be taking you through that. But till then, here's our intro. Awesome. We are back. We are back. We are back. Thank you for joining us. Wherever you're joining us, give us a thumbs up if the sound is okay, if the picture quality is okay. If you feel you're having something cool, drop us a line. Let us know how it's going. So, last week, we were going to do part 2 of the Bot Composer, the Bot Framework Composer, all right, Bot SDK Composer. Now, I had a little emergency, so I had to take care of that. So we cut the stream somewhere in the middle. So what I'm going to do is that we're going to go over the same thing, what we started last week, talk about dialogues, and then we're going to implement dialogues in our Kofi Ghana bot, all right, that we're building using the Bot Composer framework. So, as always, before we get into that, a couple of things I just want to get out of the way. So let's go straight to it. The first one that deserves a sound effect and all that is yep. It is the MCT West Africa Cloud Bootcamp 2020. Now, this actually is a combination of everything on the Microsoft ecosystem, from Azure, .NET, M365, Power Platform, everything. All the MCTs and all the cool community leaders in West Africa are coming together to give you this. It's actually starting tomorrow. It's starting tomorrow, the 5th of September. It's running for 8 weeks. So technically 8 days, but spread across 8 Saturdays. So starting from tomorrow, which is 12 p.m. GMT +1, or you can say 12 p.m. West African time, it's actually 2 tracks. We have 2 tracks running simultaneously on different topics, from Azure, from M365 to all the cool stuff from Microsoft you can think of. So people like Foyin, Sheyin, Frank, myself, Olajumoke, all the cool people who are in the tech ecosystem, or the Microsoft tech ecosystem, on the African and West Africa countries or sectors, actually going to be on this particular series. So don't miss it. 2 tracks, easy to register. Go to bit.ly/MCTWACB20, and then you can register. Hurry and join the awesome event. So with that out of the way, yes, the next thing is Dynamics Con. I think that also deserves a round of applause, right? It deserves a round of applause. So let's give that also a round of applause. So if you actually missed so if you actually missed my session on IoT and then Power Platform and all that, Well, I'm doing a repeat on that on the Dynamics Con. So make a date with me September 9 to 10. Super excited to show this. So make sure you don't miss it and you join me on that day. All right. Cool. Awesome. Let's move on to the next, dude. We have the next thing. Yes, another, it is another round of applause. Awesome. So Sunday on the Power Series, we have Louise Freeze joining us. She's going to show us, how to build an app in less than 30 minutes. So if you've missed Power Series for a while, yeah, we went, on a little break. We're back with full vim, with full swag, with full, cool stuff. So join us this Sunday as well for Power Series episode 33. Well, really, we're going. That's it. Really, we're still moving strong. So join us for, this cool session. And then let's see, what do we have? Do we have something else? Oh yeah, I think last but not the least. Oh, how did I miss this? How did I miss this? All right, so the last one is actually so Microsoft Ignite. Yes, Microsoft Ignite also deserves, yes, an effect. Yeah, it's happening. Microsoft Ignite is also happening. Yes, and I'll be speaking in one of the community sessions. So it's happening Tuesday 22nd to Thursday 24th of September. All right. Make sure you go sign up. So you can go to myignite.microsoft.com. I think it's myignite.com, and then you can sign up free virtual event for you to learn a lot of things from all the cool people all around. So we have all these things out of the way. Now, something I just want to talk about. So we know that in recent times things have been a bit, hard. So what Microsoft is doing is that Microsoft is doing actually having an initiative that allows you, all right, to technically take certification for very cheap. So certifications that were expensive, they're almost $100. You can get them for as cheap as $50. So check that out. I think let me just drop. I'm going to drop the link in the chat, so you can go to that link that I posted in the chat, and then actually you can go check that out, right? So, just check it out. Just show that proof of you being unemployed, and then hey, off you go. All right. So that's another cool thing that Microsoft is doing. Now, there's something that really awesome that was really exciting that I want to share. It has to do with Microsoft Teams and something really, really, really exciting. Now, what is this thing? Now, for a long time, for those of us that stream, have been waiting for when NDI. Now, NDI plugin is actually a plugin that allows us to capture multiple users from, let's say, Skype or any other, video conferencing application and bring that as an input into OBS. And over the week, I think over the week, yeah, was it last week? Yeah, I think so. So Microsoft Teams, the team actually unveiled the Teams NDI plugin, which I think, yes, is an awesome thing. Yeah. So that means that now we can actually have a Teams call, and I can actually now get, if I have 4 or 5 people on the call, I can get all their let's say their videos, right, as input streams into OBS and have that number of sources. So that is something cool that I really, 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 really I'm glad and happy about. So that's something to also check out, right? Awesome. So now let's get into the meat of the day. Now, if you're just joining us today, we're doing part 2 of our scheduled bot that we're building. So we started with the bot composer framework. We were going to learn. We're learning how to use it. We saw the overview in the last 2 weeks of sessions. So in this week, we're going to talk about all about dialogues. Because if you look at the things we're doing, I think in today's session we're supposed to learn how to. Let's actually. Where is our to do? Let me bring this here. Let's open our to do. Let's open our show. Yep. So as you can see, well, what did I just do? I brought in OBS instead. All right, cool. So let's do this. So if you were following, we created a simple bot and tested in emulator last weeks. That's fine. And then the next thing was now we're supposed to learn how to add actually a dialogue to help bot fulfill a scenario. All right. And then we also look at how to use prompt to ask questions and get response from HTTP endpoint. So today we're going to focus on adding dialogues. All right, that's what we're going to focus on. So let's bring this down here. And as always, I'm going to use the official resource so we can get very, very recent content. All right, so let's go here. and I'm going to open. So if you're new to this session, please go and check out our previous session on my YouTube channel on the very first episode. So today we're going to look at adding bots. All right. So we're going to take a look at the importance of bots, how it's organized, its framework, its architecture, and all that. And then we're going to look at it holistically. When we're done, we'll come back and then add a dialogue to our Kofi Ghana bots that we're creating. All right. So basically, dialogues contain one or more triggers. All right. Which also consists of one or more actions. So we're going to go into dialogue. So let's use it. So last week I mentioned to you that just like any application where you have your like your functions, your features, your methods, all like the cool stuff of an application, right? The dialogue also is kind of like a similar thing where you have all the functionality, conversations, intelligence, and everything all wrapped into like a usable block called what, a dialogue. All right. So dialogues are more like the Lego building blocks for your bot. All right. So everything you want to build in a bot, you build them on top of dialogues. All right. Now there are several types of dialogues, but there are two main types. All right. There's the main dialogue, okay, and then the child dialogue. All right. The main dialogue and the child dialogue. All right. Now, so what happens is that if you're building your application, or sorry, your bot, you want a dialog to represent a particular action that your bot will perform. So for instance, if in our case, our Kofi Ghana bot is going to help us talk about the weather. All right. So we're going to have a weather dialog, and that's going to handle, the dialog functionality. If we decide to now, we're supposed to also add something for COVID. Okay, so if Kofi Ghana bot is supposed to tell us something about the COVID situation, we're going to also wrap all that feature in a set of COVID related dialogues. All right. Then let's say elections are upcoming. We want to know what's happening, who is saying what, who is doing what. All right. Now we can also now wrap that whole functionality into another set of dialogues. All right. So the building blocks of your bot is based on what? On dialogues. All right. Now, so in Composer, dialogues are just functional components that give you the visual interface for you to create all the pieces you want to. If you're using the bot framework SDK, you would have to write a class, inherit from the class, make sure you're implementing all that. All right, cool. So like I mentioned, we have actually two types of dialogues. All right, the main dialogue and the child dialogue. Right now, there is always one there's always one main dialogue by default when you create a new bot. All right, that is kind of like the entry point. So like that's like the entry point into your whole bot agent. All right. Now, then from there, you can create one or more, child dialogues. You can create like a gazillion child dialogues. All right. Now, so this helps you to organize your bot code very very efficiently. All right. Now, so if you open your bot framework composer, you realize that by default you have your first let's do this. Let's zoom this a bit. You're going to have your first dialog showing at the top there, top left, and you can change it. And then subsequently, you can add, other dialogues to it. All right. Now, before we do that, now what happens is that now the main dialog that is created when your bot is actually you first create a bot. That is kind of like the entry point, like I mentioned. That's what initializes all the other parts of your bot and start your conversational flow. Right. Now, this is anatomy of a dialog. Now, so first of all, let me actually zoom this in. Oh, that's too much. Okay, right. Let's bring this. All right. So this is how this is anatomy of the dialogue. All right. We're going to explain this as we move on. So first of all, it is based off now the adaptive dialogue. All right. If you're familiar with adaptive cards, a way of representing UI using purely declarative JSON lines of JSON definitions. All right. Now, adaptive dialogue is kind of like a derivative of that. It's what powers the dialogue base or the UI base for the bot composer framework. All right. So it makes it very how would I say? Makes it very useful, make it very versatile to create bots with different forms of UIs. All right. Now, so it is made up at the top of what we call the language recognizer. All right. Now, what the language recognizer does is that it allows your bot to understand your intent or recognize your intent. I think I spoke a lot more intent last week to try to explain what an utterance was. And the utterance is consistent of intent and entity values and all that, right? So The language recognizer is, we'll talk more about it. It's what allows your bot to understand what you're trying to say. All right. Now, when your language understander, when your language recognizer now understands your intent, what happens is that it goes to invoke a series of dialogues related to that particular what intent. Now, then we also have what triggers. Now, triggers are what initiate what we call what your dialogues. So your language recognizer will probably say weather. All right, that is going to trigger or call the weather trigger to initiate what the weather dialogue. Is that okay? So at this point, your trigger is going to what initiate the dialogue when the user or when the system recognizes what you're trying to say. All right. So from the intent, the user recognizer, the language recognizer, all right, figures what you want your intent, and then calls a trigger responsible for what that particular intent, and that trigger knows which dialogue to call to what fulfill that event. Now, each trigger also has what conditions and a collection of actions. So a trigger can have one or more actions. Now, actions are actually the work or the process that is done on the interaction you have with the bot. All right. So the actions describe the instructions. So when I say I want to do this, what should I do? It is actions that actually describe the actions that you do within a dialogue. Then at the bottom of it is what we call the generator. All right. Now, so what the language generator does is that is what allows you to create responses. All right. It allows you to create very grammatically correct responses to the user. All right. It has a templating a format that allows you to be very creative with the way you want to respond. All right. To it. And then at the bottom is what we call there's a memory area where you can store properties for later use. All right. So let's say when the user starts interaction with the bot and you ask the user, what's your name? All right. And the user provides the name. You want to store the name for subsequent interactions to say that, okay, maybe I'm giving the user a response. And for that matter, I can say that, go pick the name from the memory and represent that. All right. So you can also do that. So that is generally how the anatomy of a dialogue is. All right. So we talked about the recognizer. Now, there are two types of recognizers by default, all right? There is a Lewis recognizer, which is the default, and then there's the regular expression recognizer. Now, the Lewis recognizer is based on Microsoft's language understanding and intelligence services, all right? That's like AI-powered intent recognition and all that, all right? Speech recognition and all the cool stuff. Then the second one is just regular expressions that allow you to match patterns within your request. So if you go and type something, you can say, well, the regular expression is that if it matches anything I type, produce some response. All right. So that is how you would address or identify with what a regular expressions recognizer. Now, so what I mentioned was that when you speak or write or type something into a bot, all right, that is an utterance. Now, it's made up of intent and then what entity values. I explained this in the last week's episode, so go check that out. So when your recognizer is able to decipher what the intent is and what entity values are. All right. Intent are the actions you want to do. Entity values are like the variables you are passing onto it. And I gave an example that if I say, what is the weather in Accra? What is the weather in Accra? What is the weather in Accra? So you realize that what is the weather? The intent here is weather. I'm trying to get the weather, the weather for what? Accra. Now, Accra is a variable. Accra is what we call an entity value. So if I needed to call a third-party service, I'll now know that, okay, so first of all, weather will take me we'll call the weather trigger, that will call the weather dialog, and then the entity value of Accra will know that, okay, I need to pass Accra to whichever service that gives me the weather forecast or weather information. So that's entities, that's intent, and then entity values, all right? So mention your composer by default has two of these recognizers, all right? Now, then triggers. We talked about them saying that the functionality of your dialogue is connected with what triggers. So triggers are kind of like the rules that tell the bot how to process incoming messages and also how to use like different bot behaviors. So from performing the main fulfillment to handling interruptions to sending you to another dialogue, all is handled by what? By triggers. And there are different types of triggers. You can have an intent recognizer trigger. There's an unknown one, a dialogue event, an activity, and a custom event. All right. Over time, we'll be talking about these things as we move on. All right. Now, as I mentioned, triggers are made up of one or more actions. All right. So triggers can contain what we call series of actions that can be used to undertake series of respond to your request, perform calculations, call external services, do all the crazy stuff. That's what actions allow you to. We also talk about the language generator, right? That takes in the actions and sends the message. So this allows you to give grammatically correct, like responses to, your end user. Now, so these are example of the dialogue actions. Begin a new dialogue, edit this like dialogue, cancel all dialogues, end a turn, repeat a dialogue, repeat this dialogue. So these are like the dialogue actions, all right, that you can have. We'll see them as we start to, to create them. Now, when you have time, I want you to go check this resource out as well. I'll give you a homework to build on what I would do. So, as I mentioned, there are other dialogue libraries, all right, and then the adaptive dialogue itself. So let's close this. So these are the other dialogue libraries. So a dialogue can have a state, has an infrastructure, all right. We can set its context, we can get the instance, we can get a dialogue 10 result. So anytime a dialogue fulfills an operation, a set of these methods are sent to us. So this class you are seeing, dialogue set, dialogue contents, dialogue instance. If we're using the Bot framework SDK against, let's say, .NET or C#, you would have been writing your classes for all these things. But the composer has abstracted these things and brought it up for you to use without any hassle. All right. So the dialogue types, these are the dialogue we talked about the dialogue types. We have a dialogue, we have a dialogue container dialogue, we have a component dialogue, we have a waterfall dialogue. All right. So waterfall dialogue basically is a type of dialogue that is like a sequential process. So like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. That would be what a waterfall dialogue, all right? Then there's a prompt dialogue. A prompt dialogue is one that asks a user for something and then returns a response, all right? Then there's the adaptive dialogue. So what we just showed was the component of the adaptive dialogue, right? Which is like the base of the composer framework. We have action dialogues. So action dialogues can represent if you're trying to do a programmatic structure, you want to change the conversation flow and all that. Then we have what? Input dialogues. Now, these input dialogues allow the user to pass information to your bot, all right, for you to respond to it. So let's say if I have like an insurance bot and I want to check information about my policy, all right, I can use an input dialogue to get the policy number, and then I can now use let's say either a basic dialogue or maybe a container dialogue to return the information, all right, for me. There's also a Sql dialogue. Now, a Sql dialogue is a dialogue that allows you to connect to another bot, all right, or another service, right? Then you have the Q&A maker dialogue that allows you to automatically access the Q&A maker to connect your knowledge base. So if you have an FAQ on your website, you can create that FAQ and then bring them into bot for them to answer questions, all right, for you. Now let's take a look at the main patterns, all right? There are 2 dialog patterns, all right, for starting and managing dialogues for a bot. So we can talk about the adaptive ones, okay, for adaptive dialogues or any other set of dialogues, okay, we can use that. And then we can say the second one is for other dialogues that you can use to manage dialogues, okay, you can have the root dialogues and adaptive dialogues, all right? Now, so the dialogue stack, like we mentioned, a dialogue has a context that contains all the information about the current activity, all right? And the dialog stack also has can act as a callback for other activities. So if you call a dialog can have a set of dialogues being the responses to that, right? So a dialog can have a container dialog can have a dialog ID, the component ID. Then we can talk about the adaptive dialog. So the information I've given you can spend time and go look, all right, at it. So let's not worry so much about these things for now. Let's just jump in. So this is the adaptive dialogues. I've already explained this. It forms the same basis, okay, for the dialogue architecture. All right. So now let's go ahead and let me open my. Let's actually unpin this because that's gone. And let's go here. Let's look for the bot framework composer. Let me actually now pin this to the taskbar. Then I can bring it. All right. So let's go ahead and open our. So why is? Anyways, just going to open it. It's just being a spoiled brat. All right. So let's get in here. And now let's bring this out. Cool. So, right. So let's go ahead. So this is our Bot Framework Composer. If you don't have it, I showed how to get and install it in last week's session. All right. You can take a look at that. If you're joining us, welcome. We're building one part two of building our bot using a bot composer framework. All right. So what are we going to do? So let's go ahead and open our bot and inspect it. Now, one thing I also encourage you to do is that you can also open the bot emulator. All right. So that you can pass the URL to the bot emulator, and then when you make changes, you don't have to click on it to get the bot to run all the time. All right. So I'm going to open this and keep it here for now. When we will build a bot and we want to test it, I'll just connect it to it and then we can take a look at it. Okay, just putting myself down there. I think I should start using my green screen because as you can see, because I'm not using the green screen, I'm practically just covering everything from that side. But if I use the green screen, then I can get myself out of there. Then I can see the other stuff. But hey, that's fine. Let's have to. And then I can actually make myself big. Yeah. The only thing is that when I use the green screen, you can't see the cool background, right? But maybe, who knows? Yeah, I should probably just get a green screen, right? But the other thing is that if I get a green screen, I have to make sure I'm keeping myself within frame because when I do like this, boop, that's gonna cut it. And they don't mind me just goofing around. All right, so let's go and open our logic. So it's ours is a Kofi Ghana bot. So let's click this to open it. And as you can see, let me bring this here. So currently it's so what you see. So by default, we have our first what? Our first dialog, and you can see in the dialog we have the welcome user trigger. And what does it do? It just says, "Hi, I'm Kofi Ghana. I have the latest in news, gossip, weather, COVID, and much more." So I can click this. So as you can see, that's a template, right? And we'll talk more about this at some point, but currently let's just leave this. So I can say, "Hi." Let me bring this here. I deliberately did it so I can have a lot more room. This is much linear, right? So says, "Hi, I'm Kofi Ghana. I have the latest in news, gossip, weather, COVID, and much more." Um, say much more. What can uh what can I help you with? Okay, so like I mentioned that you also need to make sure that you're going through the bot planning before you start to implement, because as you can see, what's happening is that you want to plan your bot flow, okay, your dialog flow. How do I respond? In this case, I could have said that, "Hi, like I'm Kofi Ghana, I have the latest in news, gossip, weather, COVID, and much more." Instead of "What can I help you with?" Instead of just leaving it open, I could actually suggest something to the user. And we're going to take a look at this in subsequent episode. I'll show you how to do that. But for now, so what you do is that you go ahead and you click on Start Bot, all right, at the top right. Once it loads, builds everything, you should see that the reloading changes to test and run. I think it's test mode. Yeah. So let's wait for it to run. And I'll show you how to connect that to your bot emulator so that you don't necessarily need to be clicking on that. It just actually just maps it to it. So we're waiting for it to build. The first time seems to take a while. So I think actually we can close our do for now, and then we can, okay, no, let's just keep it. When we're done, we can check that off. Now you see there's test in bot emulator. Because I already have mine, so when I go here, I'll just copy the URL, just hover over test in bot emulator. All right, so let me do this. Let me get, I always know I have to start it before, but I always somehow forget. So let's do this. All right, here hover copy, then there you go. So this is it. All right, let me show you one more time. There you go. Okay, so if you hover over this, right, this comes, then you can click on this thing, all right, just to copy the URL, right? Then you can now come into your bot emulator and then click on open bot, and then you paste, right? I can paste the URL there, then click on browse. Oh no, sorry, yeah, sorry, connect, sorry, down here. So now what this does is that it now connects me to the bot. And as you can see from down here, almost immediately when I started it, it just went ahead and say, "Hi, I'm Kofi Ghana. I have the latest in news, gossip, weather, COVID, and much more. What can I help you with?" All right. So you can see that the welcome message has been what? Has been triggered. All right. So as of last week, this is what we did. Okay. So we built a very basic bot. So in today's episode, we're supposed to add what? A dialogue. So currently, we said that the first thing we want to do is that let's go ahead and then add a get weather dialog. All right. So how do we go about it? Let's minimize this. So in our bot, we come up here and you should be watching this side. So you see that as of now, the dialogues is just so the first dialog, if I click on it, you can see the dialog properties on the right here. All right. I just changed it from, I just changed the name to Kofi Ghana bot. And as you can see, we are not using any recognizers at this point. All right. We're not using any, no, what I think I was just using the default recognizers for now. All right, which is Louis. We're not using anything as of now. Okay. So let's go ahead and then do the get weather, how do you call it? Get weather um, dialog. All right. So click add here and then you click a new what? A new dialog. Now watch the steps. Dialog is what contains the actions and activities you want to do. Now once you are done, you need to find a way to connect the dialogues to the what? The main one, which is Kofi Ghana bot. All right, that's your welcome one. So you need to find a way to connect it to previous dialog or your entry point dialog so that the rest of your bot workflow knows that this dialog exists and this dialog works in this way. All right, don't forget that. So add a new dialog. Okay, and let's call this dialog get weather. All right, and then I'll just say get the current weather, get the current weather conditions. Now, and then click OK. So now immediately we did this, you realize that now this has created the what? Get weather dialog with a begin dialog what? Trigger. Is that okay? It creates a begin dialog trigger. So we created a what? A new dialog and then immediately gave us a begin what? Dialog trigger. So this is not telling us, okay, so get weather, what do you want to do? What trigger is it? It is a begin dialog. So when this dialog is called, this is how we want to build the rest, okay, the rest of it. So what do we want to do? Let's build it, baby steps. So let's click here and examine what we have. Look closely. Now, as you can see, when you click this, you have the option to first of all what? Send a response. All right. Do ask question, create a condition, create a loop, do dialog management, manage properties. Properties are like the things you store in memory that you can reuse. Or what? Access external resources. So someone was asking me, can I call an API, third-party API? Yes, you can do that. You would go for what? Access external resource and call the API. All right. Or you can also look at debugging options. All right. So baby steps. Let's just say, let's start with send response. All right. Now, so what do we need to do? We click this and you can see the language generator. What is the response? Okay, we want to see. So let's keep it simple. Let's say, sure, comma. Let's check. Okay. So let's check. Let's see. Let's check the weather. All right. Let me use an exclamation. Very simple. All right. Now, you realize that at this point, I haven't closed my bot emulator. It's still running, all right? Now, the only thing I need to do now is at the top here, I just need to click Restart Bot, all right? So I click on Restart Bot, and it's kind of like reloading with the new changes, all right? So, okay, now that it's done, all I need to do is just come into my bot, the bot emulator, okay? And then here, I just click on this drop down and then restart either with a new user or the same user. So the bot emulator is smart enough that you can actually continue your conversations using the a user that you've already like started to use, or you can say no, run this like I'm a new person connecting to the bot, okay, as opposed to restart this with me just continuing the service. So let's go ahead. I'll look at the drop down here, and I'll say restart with a new ID. So the assumption is that I'm interacting with this bot, as a new, all right, as a new user. So this is what happens. It says hi, I am what, Kofi Ghana. Now what's going to happen? So let's say, let me just go ahead and say, what's the weather? Let's see. Bam! Nothing is happening. What could be wrong? What's the weather? I said, what's the weather? Right? Nothing is happening. Well, yes, this is an expected behavior. Now, nothing is happening because at this point, our application doesn't know how to, what to, like, how do I, call the get weather dialog. The dialog has been created, right, to respond anytime it is called. But as of now, the application doesn't know even how to, reach or connect to the dialog. So the next thing we need to do now is to connect the get weather dialog to the main application. Hey, K Edwards, what's up? Why the hyphen before sure? Okay, so yeah, good question. So the hyphen, let me actually, this is what K is asking, that why the hyphen before this. Now, the language generation tool they are using, it's a way to actually figure out what's like a new line, okay, or a new template. Yeah, because I can have different templates. All right. Okay, let me show you this. I didn't want to do this, but uh let me quickly show you. Okay, no, let's connect it and I'll do this. So, okay, I hope that answers. It's just a way to denote the end of like a template. That's why we're doing that. So let's say, hope it answers. I hope it answers you. All right, cool. So now we need a way to tell the bot that, hey, when someone says weather, go ahead and call this particular dialog. All right. So now how do we do that? Well, quite simple. All right. So let's go ahead and select the configure bot. All right, at the top here. Right. And then what we are going to do is that at this point, all right, at this point, now I realize that I didn't select the welcome or the trigger. All right, I selected the main one. Right, welcome key. So welcome. So select the entrance, the main what? Remember the main dialog, and then at the top here. All right, let me zoom in so you can see this. So at the top here, we're going to what? Add a new trigger on what? Kofi Ghana bot. Do you see this? So this is the way. This is the only way we can tell it that, okay, now this is how you should, when someone says, when you realize someone is trying to say weather or get weather, this is how you access it. All right. But before then, if you select it, let's come back to the properties here. Now you realize that here it is asking us for the language. Where is that? So it's asking us for the language recognizer. All right. For the purpose of this session, okay, let's just go with the regular expressions recognizer, right? For now, I just want us to build incrementally. We'll use the Lewis later on in the series, all right? Now, so we are using regular expressions here. It allows us to just look out for certain keywords in a statement or a text, all right? So I'll choose the regular expression, all right, as our recognizer, all right? We have the options to choose. So something has happened. This has been updated. So last week when we did it, they had none. There's a regular expression, and then they had a custom recognizer. So as you can see, things are changing. That's one thing about this platform that I like. They're continuously evolving it. The default one will be Lewis. Okay, in this case, the default will be Lewis, and then the regular expression will be the second regular expression. And then I realize that now the custom expression is one that you can actually use to create your own recognizer if you want to build your own. So you see, they're making it extensible. So let's use the regular expression, all right? And then, yeah, that is it. And then we can go ahead and now click on it and go to new. and say add what? A new trigger. All right, add a new trigger to Kofi Ghana bot. Now, this is asking us, okay, what is the type of trigger you're adding? Now, this trigger we are adding is what? An intent recognized trigger, right? So this is going to be fired when an intent is recognized from the user. So we select the intent recognized. You can see the other options we have. Let me zoom in. So the other options we have here are the intent, the Q&A intent, an unknown intent, a dialog intent, an activities intent, duplicated intent recognized, and then a custom event. So we are using an intent recognized. So this is telling us that when we recognize something, all right, now what are we trying to do? Because we are using a regular expression recognizer, all right, let's say anytime, all right, you see anything like weather, what is the name of this trigger expression? We are calling this trigger weather. And then please input the regular expression pattern. So anytime you see anytime we see any word we see any word weather in the statement, okay, we want this trigger to be fired. So let's submit this, okay. And now with this trigger, all right, with this weather trigger, what do we want to do when when trigger happens? So we can click here and say that what? It's a dialog management action we want to perform. So when that begin or intent recognizer trigger is fired, we want to do what? A dialog management of what? Begin a new dialog. So what dialog is that? We select this, and then from the dialog name at the top here, all right, the dialog name at the top here, we can go ahead and select, as you can see, our dialog get weather. Is that okay? Right? That's pretty much it. At this point, we're not going to add any options. We're not going to add any. So we're not going to add any properties yet. In the next phase, we'll see how to add a property to get some information. So now we're just saying call the get weather dialog. All right. Again, let's restart our board to save and update the changes. And then when this is done, now we can come back to our bot emulator and just click on restart with a new user. So as you can see, it says, hi, I'm Kofi Ghana. I have the latest in news, gossip, weather, COVID, and much more. What can I help you with? So if I go in here, all right, is this thing? Oh yeah, it's zoomable. Yay! Yes, I think we should use this one so you can see it properly. I think this is cool. All right. So now if I go in there and I type, what is the weather? All right. You see that? Because we are using a regular expression recognizer, it recognized that there was weather in this sentence, all right? And therefore, if you look at the weather, the get weather dialog, all we said was that when that dialog is started, just say, respond with sure, let's check the weather, all right? So I can just go ahead and type again, weather. It will just say the same thing. If I say I need the weather, right? This is like in the simplest of forms. So the regular expression recognizer is saying anytime you see anything that matches the pattern we provided, all right, call this particular dialog. All right. Is that okay? Right. Awesome. Right? Is that not cool? Yeah, so that's like this. Now, so Edwin, to answer your question, to demonstrate when I realize that you see this, anytime we call the weather, what's happening? It's only giving us the same response. Let's check the weather. Let's check the weather. That can, at some point becomes like very tiring. All right. So the cool thing about the template language, the template generator, all right, is if we come to get weather and we select the response, all right, here I can go down, and instead of saying sure, let's check the weather, I can say right on. I can change this to right on. Okay, that's one. And then I can add another one and say let's say sure, let's check the weather right on. And I can say let's use another one. Let's say all right. Let's do this. All right. Let's let's do this. Okay. Another thing is that with this language generator, I can actually create a template to do like a lot of cool stuff and then come and call this template here. So let's restart the bot and you can understand why this is very powerful. All right. So now what I'm saying is that this send response has the option to return any of this randomly. All right. And this is not just plain typing. Later on in the episode, I'll show you how to create a template and be very fancy with your template. All right. So it's going to output the template design. So let's go ahead. I think our bot is restarted. And then we will go to Bot Emulator. All right. And then, so again, I'll just click here. Let's restart with a new user. So restart, it says, hey, I'm Kofi Ghana. So I'll say, what's the weather? You see it? Now it's saying what? Right on. Okay. Now if I say, give me the weather. You see it? All right, let's do this. So now the bot is no longer boring. Like some boring bot I tested a couple of days ago. He just kept saying the same thing all over. So you can be very creative about this. I can actually create a template that actually calls another service that generates like a random, very cool, how do you call it? That will put like some adjectives or some nouns or things like that in there. All right. We created 3. So if I say um how's the weather like, you see it? Sure, let's check the weather. So that is one of the power of language generation. All right. So Edwins, I hope this gives you a much really, that gives you a much deep understanding of what what it is. All right, at this point. So now that is how you create a dialogue. All right. So now we've created a weather dialogue. Okay. We created a trigger. All right. To get that intent and then return, info. So let's add another one. Okay. Let's go ahead and add another one and then we can kind of like repeat it and understand the process. So let's go over it again. So we selected the main dialogue and then we went here. We say add a new dialogue and then we'll call this one let's just call this dialogue get COVID info. All right. And then we'll say get COVID-19 related info. Right. Then okay. Yeah, it's very interesting. And trust you me, this is like very awesome. Very. And I plan to show something. I've seen a couple of people, a couple of companies implement bots, and it's not really exciting. So I'll try to create a very cool one on the show, give it a persona and character and all that, and then we'll have some fun. All right. So with this begin dialogue, okay, what do I want to do? All right, when this dialogue is called, okay, again, I can say what? Send a response. All right, when this dialogue is when they begin, like when they get COVID information, is so what would be a common response if someone wants to get COVID information? Sure. Let's say sure. Um, what? Let's say sure. Tell me what you want to know, right? Let's say sure. Tell me what you want to know, right? And we can add another one. Let's say what COVID info, or let's say yeah, what COVID related info or what COVID related service, all right, can I help you with, right? So this is just 2. So let's go ahead and then, so again, we've created a dialogue, okay, but that is not all. We need to let our bots know how to also what? handle what? COVID related intent. Again, we're using a regular expression. So we click on the main, we go back to add a trigger, and then it's an intent recognized. We want this trigger to be fired when you recognize an intent. Okay, and we are still using regular expression. We'll call this COVID, and then say that anytime you see anything COVID, all right, what do you want to do? Anytime you see anything COVID, let's do a dialog management and begin a new dialog. What dialog are we calling? In this time, get COVID what? Information, right? So now we can restart this. So I realize that on the main dialog, we have three intents, three triggers, all right? Weather, welcome the user, weather, and COVID, all right? So now, again, let's restart this. Let's go back. Let's see. Once this is done, we can go back to our emulator. Let's restart with a new user. It'll give us our welcome message. We'll say, what's the weather? Say right on, all right? We have not implemented it yet. So if I say, let's say, give me COVID updates. You see that? What COVID related service can I help you with? All right. So we've created two dialogues, two triggers, connected them, and we are cool. So what I want us to do, what I want you to do as homework is that go create your own dialogue first of all, create your own bot first of all, create a dialogue, one or two dialogues, create triggers to call them. All right. And then once you're done, play around with it if you have the time. Else, you can join us again. Join me next week because 6 minutes of time I can do a Q&A. So join me next week, and next week what we're going to do is that we are now going to actually enable functionality in the bot. So we're going to start with the get weather. We're actually going to make a call to an external weather service to get the weather information. So let's bring back here our to-do list. So okay, I think we can 6 minutes. Should we do that? Yeah, so let's cancel add more two dialogues to help you fulfill the scenario. We've finished this. You know what? We still have about 5 minutes. Okay, let me show. Let's do the next thing, which is use prompts to ask questions and get response from HTTP request. Okay. You know what? Let's do that next week. Let me keep you in suspense. So if you want to see this, join me next week for another episode of Demystify Tech. Let's do part 3 of using the bot framework composer, where we're going to ask the user for a response. We get the response, and then we use that response to call a third-party HTTP service. So if you like this, if you're enjoying this, please this subscribe, and hit the bell. Boom! So that if I release anything, you're gonna get notifications. Please subscribe. If this is interesting and helps you, subscribe to your channel. Tell your friends, tell another friend, tell another friend, tell another friend to join the channel so that we can grow and we can learn together. All right. If you love this, make a day with me. Stay safe. Reach out to me on any of my social media handles. As you can see, I always have them down there. It's not changed. It's always down there. All right. I think I need to put something here like boop, something like boop. Yeah, here boop boop boop. You're sharing like boop some clips. All right. So thank you very much for joining me today. If you like this, make a day with me next week. Let's continue in connecting our services, learning, and doing cool stuff. Until then, I'll come your way again on Sunday with Power Series. Don't forget, we have Luis Fries coming on the show. Exciting. If you have something you want me to talk about or you want me to, say, just send me an email or send me a message on Twitter or any of the social media handles, and I'll actually help you with that. Until then, stay safe, stay positive, keep doing what you're doing. Don't let anybody pull you back. Positive vibes, stay focused. The dream is going to be real. Yours truly, Samuel Adranyi, and I am out.